Let's turn to another key domestic issue, the horrific mass shooting in Maine. And I want to get your reaction to what the newly elected Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson had to say about it this week. He said, quote, "At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns." Do you agree with him?
Well, first of all, I think this was a very tragic thing. And, my heart goes out to all the victims in this. Truly horrific. I think in this case, there was a medical intervention, a health intervention. He clearly had problems. He was involuntarily committed. He would not have been somebody that would have been a prohibited possessor, or he would have been a prohibited possessor based on that adjudication. So this is, I think, an example where clearly this is a guy very well trained, had a lot of skills, and then went off his rocker. There was an intervention, but it wasn't enough. So I'd like to know, why wasn't there more done? We've seen instances throughout the country where there have been a lot of signs where people have maybe been referred, but then they don't go through with everything. And I think that's going to be probably what we end up finding out here. I'm somebody that said publicly, we've had a major push over the last 40, 50 years for deinstitutionalization of people. And I'm not saying you got to go all the way back, but I do think that we tend to pass the buck with some of these people and just kind of hope that they don't do anything wrong when there's a lot of signs. So I would be more aggressive on some of those fringe people who clearly are demonstrating signs that they're a major danger to society.
Let me ask you about your call to institutionalize people, though, because we are learning new details about what did and did not happen. This is overnight. Law enforcement chiefs say they received a statewide alert in mid-September to be on the lookout for Card after he made threats against his base, against his fellow soldiers. They searched for him. They could not find him, yet he was able to, in the days before the attack, walk into a store and buy guns. So if you can't find someone to institutionalize them, as you have called for, why shouldn't there be a final line of defense in the form of a red flag law or some other blaring red sign that says to gun sellers, don't allow this person to have a gun?
Well, I don't think you would even need a red flag. If somebody has a mental involuntary commitment, an adjudication of that nature, that usually would go into the system, and that would be on a traditional background check. I mean, I believe in due process, so I don't believe in this idea, that the government can just take someone's property and then go through due process later. But what I do believe is convicted felons and people that are mentally incompetent or mentally ill, I think that's been the law in pretty much every state and federally for quite some time. And I believe in strong constitutional rights, but with that comes responsibility. And if you're somebody that can't conduct themselves in society because of mental illness, then that absolutely should be taken into account.
But if you can't conduct yourself in terms of mental illness, shouldn't there be a law? In this case, officials in Maine are saying a red flag law could have made a difference. It would have empowered authorities to raise that red light to gun sellers all across the state and say, this is someone who should not be able to own a gun, that final line of defense never kicked in because it didn't exist, Governor.
Well, no, when you do background checks, if somebody has a criminal conviction, for example, that goes into the system. When they run a background check, that is what they're checking against.
Maine doesn't have strong background checks.
No.
Are you arguing for that?
Every federal, this is federal firearm licenses. When you have to do, everyone has to go through where they scrub this. So the question is what are you putting into the system? If somebody has a mental health involuntary commitment, then that can simply be put into the existing system. You don't need additional things. And here's the problem I have with some of the proposals that have been done, and particularly in some of the more blue states, is that will be weaponized against people that the government doesn't like. I mean, you have a situation where someone can just make an anonymous call into a police station, let's say something bad about someone,
but that
and then they
anonymous
come
call
in
could
and
have helped in
take
this
firearms.
moment. Could it?
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.